Hello and welcome to Any Given Sunday, Week 8. I'm here with my good friend Tyler. We're at a different location because I'm bad at planning. Now, it's a very short week of games this week. There are 6 teams on bye. They are the Cardinals, Lions, Jaguars, Raiders, Rams, and Seahawks. A pretty good balance of good teams and mid to bad teams. Which means we only have 13 games to talk about. And oh boy, was it really hard to pick 3 circled games to really highlight and spend a lot of time on at the start of this. But a game that I'm really looking forward to for a number of reasons is Bears at Ravens. Now, I am very high on Caleb Williams. You are not. I am very high on Bears in general. You are not. The Ravens get Action Jackson back this week. And it's a home game for them. Tell me what you see going down in this one.
So this week, when I think of Lamar Jackson coming off the bye, Lamar Jackson being back, coming off the bye for this team is huge. I mean, this is the kind of organization and culture that you'd expect. Even when they start slow, even when they start rough, they're gonna be able to regroup and gather back and really utilize that bye week. I don't know if you saw, it's a small thing, but apparently the Ravens removed the ping pong table, the video games, the mini basketball hoop, and the cornhole that were apparently in the locker room.
I do have just one question for the Baltimore Ravens. How'd that work out for the Dolphins in 2023?
But we'll see. I've got more confidence in the Ravens as an organization than the Dolphins. That's for sure.
Fair.
But I've got confidence that the Ravens are going to be able to bounce back, especially at home in front of the home crowd. I mean, we go to school in the Baltimore area. We are very aware and surrounded by the frustrations of Baltimore sports fans. And they want to see a win. They want to see their team go out and absolutely dominate. Although I don't think this is going to be quite the performance they're looking for. The Bears are by no means a bad team. And I do have the Ravens winning this one just barely, partially because of Lamar Jackson being back, partially because I don't have a supreme amount of confidence in the Bears. And specifically, I don't have a supreme amount of confidence in the Bears defensively. Mm-hmm. I don't think that they're going to be able to hold the Ravens under 30, even with how dysfunctional they've been. Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson. He is the system. The Ravens put up 30 points with him. That's just kind of how it goes. And I don't think the Bears offense is going to be able to overcome that, even though they did have that absolutely huge game against Detroit. I don't think – no, not against Detroit. It was – God, I cannot. This
past week?
It was their 40-point game.
Oh, was that against Dallas?
I believe so. But over the last couple weeks, the Bears are off of a 4-game win streak. Although I would like to put that 4-game win streak into a little bit of context. A couple of those games, 2 of those games were 1-point wins.
Yeah.
One of them against the Commanders, who haven't been as dominant as they were last season, and the other one was against the Raiders, who are one of the worst teams in the NFL.
In the Ashton Genty breakout game, though.
The Raiders are still one of the worst teams in the NFL, and I don't think the Bears are going to be able to outpace the Ravens, and that's why I've got the Ravens winning at 31-28.
Yeah, I like the context being put on their 4-game winning streak, although I would also like to add that there have only been 3 25-24 games in NFL history. They've all happened in the last 2 seasons. The Bears have won all 3 of them. So the Bears made scoregami last year and then decided to just stick with that when they really needed a tough, gritty win. I have a lot more faith in the Bears offensively. Now, defensively, I do think they're really going to struggle. We saw when the Ravens had Jackson, the offense was not the issue. The defense was. They had no problems putting up 40 against Buffalo. They dominated a Browns defense that, while not dominant, has been able to put bad offenses in its place. They've done a really, really good job scoring when Lamar Jackson is present. I have this as the highest scoring game of the week, I believe. Let me check my score for the Cowboys game. Nope, I'm sorry, I lied. I have it as the second highest scoring game of the week. In any case, if I were going to bet on the over-under this game, I would take the over on the point spread. These are two offenses that are capable of putting up a lot of points, and I think they're going to do so against really subpar defenses compared to the caliber of the offense they're going to play. However, I think the Bears are going to walk into M&T Bank. Yes, the Ravens are off a bye. Yes, they've had a couple weeks to figure things out. Yes, Jackson's had time to get healthy. Man, that Ravens defense is just so bad this year. And I think the Bears have the offensive talent and scheme to really take advantage of that and just beat the doors off them. They dropped 35 on the Cowboys, and they could have scored a lot more. And that's the only other really awful defense that they've played this year. And I think when the chips are down, if they need it, Caleb Williams is going to show up. Ben Johnson is going to show up. Roma Dunze is going to show up. And Chicago is going to walk out with a 41-35 victory.
I think that is a little bit of a bolder prediction. 41 points would be a season high for the Bears.
Yeah.
And if the Ravens are smart, they're not going to let the Bears have the ball for long enough to be able to put up 41 points. But we will see what happens on Sunday.
Yes, we will.
On to the next circled game that we had. This one was a last-minute substitution because of a Bryce Young injury. But this week we've got the Sunday night primetime game with the Packers playing against the Steelers, who are coming off of a Thursday night game, so they've got a little bit of an extended rest and prep. And these are two potential division winners facing off. Granted, in opposing conferences, division winners playing is always something worth talking about. So I want to start off with hearing your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I will say first and foremost, I'm not looking forward to watching this game. Nothing to do with either of the teams involved. Everything to do with the uniforms the Steelers are wearing. I'm sure you've seen their throwback uniforms. They're not good. And the Packers have the opportunity to make it far and away the worst uniform matchup of the week, just by wearing their usual away colors and having the yellow helmet, white shirt, and yellow pants contrasted against yellow tan from the Steelers. This has a potential to be the worst uniform matchup of the week. I don't think it'll be a bad or unentertaining game, however. The Pittsburgh defense has been a lot more suspect than usual this season, which would be great if Aaron Rodgers wasn't having a career resurgence year. Rodgers has absolutely put the offense and the team on his back this year. And I think he continues to do that over a Packer team still trying to find its identity. It looked in the first couple of weeks of the season like the Packers were going to absolutely run away with the NFC, or at least give the Eagles a hell of a run for their money. And that just hasn't panned out. The Packers are the 1 seed in the NFC currently on a technicality because they have the highest winning percentage, courtesy of a tie with the Dallas Cowboys, which is not why I would want to be the 1 seed in the NFC.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, talking about those Steelers and how the defense isn't the highlight of the team is something that NFL fans are foreign to, because the defense has been the staple of the Steelers for pretty much as long as the team has been in existence. And the Packers are doing well. They are winning games. It may not be in the most glamorous ways, and that there is the tie with the Cowboys. But you did still put up 40 points, granted on a not great defense. You are able to survive the Cardinals in week 7 and you are able to beat, not dominate, a weak Bengals team, and then you lose to the Browns in week 3, but you started the season by beating 2 teams that people thought were going to be NFC powerhouses. Lions are turning out to look like the Lions. They came off to a rough start, but they're looking good now. But I agree. I agree with you in that I do think the Steelers are going to be able to just barely beat the Packers in this one. I think it's going to be a good game football wise. I don't want to watch it because I don't want to look at the uniforms, but I think it's going to be a good game of football. I've got the Steelers winning it in a little bit of a shootout just because I don't have a supreme amount of confidence in either of these teams' defenses. It is in Pitt, which does make a difference. I've got the Steelers winning it 30-28.
Well, and worth mentioning before we move on is, of course, the Aaron Rodgers return to Green Bay. I feel like he played against Green Bay, maybe even at Green Bay last year with the Jets. But I'm not 100% sure I'm correct about that. And it's going to be interesting to have Rodgers going against his protege and the coach that abandoned, quote-unquote, him. It's going to be a really interesting matchup in that regard. It's a very interesting storyline. And if we were a more storyline-focused show, a Steelers win here would absolutely be a headline for us next week. We are more interested in potential narratives than we really are in storylines like that. But yeah, Steeler home game against a hit or miss Packers team. It's hard for me to see Pittsburgh not walking out with this one.
Yeah, and on to one that I think we both had kind of circled for this week just because of how confusing one of the teams have been this one. You've talked about them quite a good deal this season. You've been quite high on them quite a deal this season. And that team is the Denver Broncos, and they've got the Cowboys going into the Mile High City.
Denver. Weird football team this year. We have this game marked in the document as defense with a question mark. I don't know that that's necessarily fair. It really has been like a trade-off with the Broncos this year. You either get a good defense game or a good offense game. And they haven't really put it all together. And I remember talking about that weeks ago.
It was when they barely beat the Jets.
Yeah.
13-11. I mean, the defense showed up.
And the offense just didn't. But, and then, 2 out of the last 3 weeks, you get a huge comeback win against Philadelphia in Philadelphia to kick off their 2-game slide. And then this week, against a much improved Giants team, a huge comeback win. 33 points in the fourth quarter for Demaryius Thomas, because it was Demaryius Thomas Day in Denver. Thomas, of course, tragically passed away at age 33. Huge storyline there. Huge emotional win for the Broncos at home against the Giants. Man, it's hard to figure this team out, though.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm glad that they were able to get a win in front of the home crowd on what I believe was the induction of Demaryius Thomas into the Broncos Ring of Honor. If you didn't see the press conference with Peyton Manning was getting emotional. I mean, Demaryius Thomas, absolute legend, absolute great human being, and it really sucks for the game and for the community when somebody like that passes. But we are glad that he was able to be enshrined, rightfully so, and that the team was able to get a win on his night. But this team is really difficult to figure out, and the Cowboys, have been a little bit more predictable this year. This year, the Cowboys' offense has been the huge story. I mean, this is apart from the Bears in week 3. Each of their games in the last, since the opener of the year, they've put up 30 or more points in every single game, and they put up 40 or more in 3 of those games. This offense has been absolutely firing with or without CD Lamb, which is the highly impressive part to me. I mean, Javonte Williams is having an absolute resurgence. He's playing great football. Dak Prescott is kind of been under the radar a little bit over the course of his career, but he's still playing great football. But the defense at times has looked very, very questionable.
Well, and against a team like the Broncos, the unit that you would want to be questionable is your defense. Because as much as the Broncos defense may not show up, their offense, I mean, it'll help that it's a weaker opponent, or at least a weaker matchup. But, man, that if ever there was a team the Broncos had to show up against offensively, it has to be the Cowboys. This is the game that I have the highest overall score on for the week. This is another one I think you absolutely just have to hammer the over. I've got 41-38 Dallas walking out with victory in Denver. Just because Dak Prescott playing really, really good football this year. I'm an Eagles fan wearing a Jaden Daniels jersey, giving credit to Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. Weird time to be alive, but we'll talk about this a little bit more in the reel tomorrow when we talk about our MVP ladder at the halfway point of the season. I don't think Dak is an MVP candidate, but that has nothing to do with him or his performances this year and everything to do with the situation that he's in. Yeah. Dak Prescott has absolutely answered the phone and answered the call that Dallas has needed from him. Now you got CD Lamb back. His connection with George Pickens flourished while CD was out. This is going to be a really dangerous offense. I expect them to kind of put this Broncos team in its place, even though that's a very, very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that the Cowboys' offense is going to continue to be very explosive. I think we've both got them putting up more than 30 points, and I think that where I differ from you is I don't think that the Broncos are gonna be able to show up in offensively as much as they need to get this win from Dallas. We've both got the Cowboys, but I've got the Cowboys winning this one in Denver 31-20, just because I don't think that the Broncos are going to be able to show up offensively, and that's just because of the pattern that they've shown this season.
All right, and with that, we can move on to the rest of the games this week. First up in the 1 o'clock window, we have Dolphins at Falcons. Now, the Falcons are coming off a disappointing loss. We both had them winning last week. That being said, this week they've got the Dolphins. The notes I have written down on the Dolphins, and actually the Dolphins are the reason that I took down notes again this week. I have decent when Tua performs, otherwise awful. And I have a prediction for the Dolphins this week, which is that Mike McDaniel gets fired after this week's loss. The Dolphins ownership has been insistent that they are not making any changes, that they like Mike McDaniel and the general manager in Miami. I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here. Teams don't survive this. The locker room in Miami is broken. Mike McDaniel is not commanding his locker room. Coaches who don't win Super Bowls or who haven't won a Super Bowl don't survive this. Hell, in 2020, when the Eagles did this, they canned their Super Bowl winning head coach at the time. And that was a complete overhaul. They also got rid of Carson Wentz. But bad teams teams that are consistently bad for multiple seasons in a row, teams that consistently miss the playoffs, don't survive a quarterback that can't win them games.
Yeah, I don't think the Dolphins organization are going to pull the trigger to fire McDaniel in the middle of the season, although I would be very surprised if he did not get fired before the beginning of next season, especially with the trajectory that the Dolphins are on, not just in terms of that they're not winning games. Like you said, the locker room is broken. There are numerous reports now from players that players are just not showing up to meetings, required meetings. In what NFL franchise, in what winning NFL franchise do you hear that happening? You just don't. And an interesting storyline I saw this week was that an interesting storyline would be Chris Shula becoming the Dolphins' next head coach. Grandson of
legendary Dolphins coach Don Shula. Shout out to my extended family in New Jersey, some of whom are Dolphins fans, and sorely miss the Shula family in the coaching tree. I'll just put it that way.
It would be quite the storyline to have Chris go to Miami and take over a team that a franchise that is still the only franchise to ever have a truly undefeated season under the leadership and coaching of Don Shula. But bringing this into the Dolphins in Atlanta, by the way, which doesn't help the Dolphins whatsoever. And the Atlanta Falcons, we've seen them bounce back this year. After that absolutely horrid game against the Panthers, they bounced back. And I think that this is going to be another week where they're coming off of a disappointing loss, and they're going to bounce back. And I hope so. I've got Drake London and Kyle Pitts on my fantasy team. I want them to bounce back, and I might be picking up Michael Penix in the waivers too.
Yeah, I mean, if he's available, it wouldn't be an awful choice.
But I've got the Falcons winning this one dominantly, 35-20.
Yeah, my biggest question mark with the Falcons is Penix himself. Because, I mean, most teams rise and fall with their quarterback. But the Falcons kind of rise and fall with their running back, Bijan Robinson. And as great of a rusher as Robinson is, Penix has to be able to put this team on his shoulder and carry them to a win when Robinson's not performing. Because the problem that the Falcons will inevitably run into is the problem that the Eagles are facing, which is, you don't have the run game, and yeah, you've got great pass catchers, but we're going to sit in zone and make you fucking beat us because you can't run the football. And that's not a recipe for success. And Atlanta has to find their way out of this woodwork. And I think they will. I trust the coaching staff. I trust that Penix will put in the work. I trust that the offense as a whole will put in the work. It's a very young offense. I've got them walking out at home with a 44-24 victory over Miami. And I think the Dolphins probably put up 14 or 17 in the final frame to save a very, very embarrassing performance, which is why I think McDaniel probably gets canned.
And on to our next game. We mentioned a little bit in the headlines video talking about the Bengals, so keep this one a little bit short. But Joe Flacco is the winner of our Unk Still Got It award. I mean, he played a really, really great game against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, threw the ball 47 times, which is not something I'd want from a 40-year-old quarterback, but 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. Hell of game from Uncle Joe. I have to distinguish which Joe I'm talking about now when I'm talking about the Bengals, which I'm upset about. Now, you and I differed on the Bengals game last week. You ended up being right. I expect you to be right again this week. And what I'm about to say, I want to make this very clear. Nothing to do with the Bengals. no disrespect to them as an organization at all. It would be the most Jets thing ever to win this game. The season's over. You're 0-7. You're not winning many fucking games. Your schedule's not easy. It would be the most Jets thing ever to give themselves a win against an opponent that they should absolutely get blown out by.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they're supposed to get blown out by the Bengals because the Bengals still are less of a team without Joe Burrow. And I think what we've seen out of Joe Flacco at this point in his career is that he can have great games. He can have good games. He had good games in Cleveland, lesser so this year, and more so that absolute insanity run he went on in, I believe it was 2024. No, 2023. But at this point in Joe Flacco's career, we've seen that he can play some great games. He can play some not so great games. But I don't think this week is going to be one of those weeks where he plays a bad game. I think he's going to do just enough to get the Bengals the win. I mean, I've got them winning this one 24-20 at home. They are coming off of a Thursday night game, so a little extra rest for the 40-year-old and crew. And
after a very heavy workload for him.
It's important for Joe Flacco, get your body right.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about this one, but I have the Jets winning 21-17. I just think this and a win against Miami in the rematch to knock themselves out of contention for the first overall pick. It's just the most Jets thing ever.
Hey, just like I called the Bengals winning that Thursday night game off pure superstition, you've got the Jets winning off pure superstition. Sometimes you just get that. You just get that hunch.
And speaking of superstitions and hunches and teams that really have no business winning at all, 49ers at Texans. 49ers have no business having a single win on the season. Somehow they are in first place in the NFC West. And Kyle Shanahan is using all of his fucking devil magic to survive and thrive. Now, they got George Kittle back this week. That's a huge boost to the offense. Except that he didn't catch a fucking pass.
Does it matter when you don't get a pass?
So I'm very upset about that. I started both Dallas Goedert and George Kittle in fantasy thinking a 2 tight end set would be my go-to. Should have started Harold Fannin over both of them.
Really?
Yeah, Harold Fannin caught a touchdown pass. That's all he did, but he caught a touchdown pass. I got a combined 3 points out of Goddard and Kittle. I would have gotten 6 from Fannin.
That's a really impressive disappointment. But the 49ers frankly don't have any business winning as many games as they've won. But and all respect and credit to the coach in San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan has done a really, really amazing job with this team, and they find ways to stay competitive.
Kyle Shanahan's going to fuck around and win not just our Coach of the Year award, but the NFL Coach of the Year award as well.
He if this team gets double-digit wins, I think it would be a crime to go to anyone but him.
I think if they make if they can go 8-9 and make the playoffs, and he still deserves it. Like managing 8 wins with Mac Jones, Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, even if you have Christian McCaffrey.
What is it that Niners fans were saying was they didn't know they thought Glock 9 was down just to have a Mac 10 in the back. That shit was corny. But no, Mac Jones is not that. He's not that great, but he's good enough.
Them games.
He's good enough. I've got the 49ers just beating a Texans team who's still kind of been struggling despite a dominant win against the Ravens a few weeks ago. They are coming off a bye, which is huge. Get an extra week of rest to try to regroup after a really slow start, but they've got to show me that they're a competitor, and they've got to show me that they can win games.
Yeah, this Texans team is just beleaguered, and their offensive line is god awful. I've got the Niners winning this one 28-17. It's not going to be that pretty for most of the game, I don't think. Especially with Nico Collins looking to miss significant time. It's a rough scene in Houston this year, and I really just hope that they can draft a stalwart tackle at the top of the draft and protect C.J. Stroud and give him time to hit all of his weapons.
Yeah, I mean that's been the theme for the Texans. We've talked about it. That's been the theme of the team is that they need to protect C.J. Stroud. But we both got the Niners winning this one. And on to a team that I think we are both much more interested to talk about, which is the New England Patriots. We've been talking about them a little bit more closely the last couple of weeks. You've got Drake May as your AFC Player of the Week, so I will let you kick it off.
Yeah, Drake May, AFC Player of the Week for me. 21 of 23 for 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. Drake May was my second favorite quarterback out of last year's draft class behind Caleb Williams. And I knew that the Commanders were not going to take him second overall. And I was really grateful for that because I thought the Commanders were going to fuck up whatever quarterback they took at second. Jaden Daniels has turned out just fine. But I thought the Commanders were going to fuck it up, and I was super grateful that it wasn't going to be Drake May. Because, holy shit, this kid has it. And he's worked his way into my MVP leaderboard because of how well he's playing. With a really subpar roster.
Yeah.
I mean, Stephon Diggs is a true number one, but Pop Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, I think are the 2 leading receivers on this team. That's MVP shit out of a second-year quarterback. And UNC has missed May. And it's very clear. Now, Bill Belichick has not been a great coach for UNC. But Drake May covered up a lot of shit at UNC that led to their previous head coach getting fired. And now he's helping the Patriots win games. And seriously win games. The Patriots are half a game in front of the Bills. With tiebreaker over them at the moment because they beat them in Buffalo. And the Browns defensively are brilliant. This, I think, is going to be a really, really good test game for Drake May. I've got the Patriots winning this one 24-17. I think one defensive touchdown for Cleveland slips its way in there. I don't think it comes off of Drake May's hands. I think it comes out of Ramondre Stevenson's. But I've got New England winning this one at home 24-17. You've got a little bit of a wider score differential, and it's interesting because the Patriots, by all metrics, are a team that you shouldn't really like because they're a team that is entirely quarterback dependent.
I think that the reason why I've got the score differential as what I do is less of a credit to the offense having an extraordinarily dominant performance. It's I have zero faith in Cleveland's offense.
Fair enough.
And New England is going to get a ton of short to medium range field opportunities, and that they're just going to be able to just go down and exploit. Because even a defense as disciplined and as good as the Browns' defense is, it's really difficult to defend short field after short field after short field after short field. And I think that, yes, most people wouldn't have been able to name the Patriots' second or third receiver before this year. But I think both of them are playing really well. I think Stephon Diggs, as just kind of a solid veteran to have in the room, is a really, really good for both those young guys and Drake May because he's a very reliable target. He's still got good hands. He's still a good route runner. He's still a good receiver. And I've got the Patriots winning this one at home. And I think they're really going to show that they've got what it takes to compete in this AFC, and I think that they're going to win this one 38-17.
Okay. Moving on to the game that I'm most interested in, selfishly, this week. Giants at Eagles. Now, we talked about this a little bit earlier when we were talking about the Broncos. The Eagles are not going to fall into the trap that is the New York Giants again. I don't think they are going to win by a lot. But in the Kelly Greens, at home, against a weaker opponent, Philadelphia will prevail. And it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be 35-28, which it's a lot of offensive points. It's a lot of points for the Eagles to put up, is 35. But I have faith that this team will ride the momentum of Brandon Graham coming back and will ride the momentum of a really, really big win against Minnesota last week, where Jalen Carter finally looked like himself. He made a huge impact on the pick six, where, I mean, he just absolutely crushed Carson Wentz as Wentz was throwing the ball. Ended up in Jalen Hunt's hands, and then, of course, Hunt ended up in the end zone. I think the Eagles are going to take on Jackson Dart and Cam Scatteraboo, and they will be better prepared for Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt and Lil Jordan Humphrey. And I think not on the MetLife turf, with Jalen Carter, with Quinyon Mitchell for the whole game this time, with Nakobe Dean back, this is going to be a really, really big game for the Eagles to get right.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is going to be this is a really big opportunity for the Eagles to get back. Like you said, fell into the trap of the Giants a few weeks ago, but I think that this is going to be a dominant showing from the Eagles, and there's a couple of reasons why I think that. One, I do want to shout out Jalen Hurts, who was both of our charts of the week, and as well, he was my NFC Player of the Week. The first perfect passer rating of the season. He was 19 for 23, had 326 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 turnovers, and like I said, that perfect 158.3 passer rating. He had a really good game. He had efficiency, he had volume numbers, and I feel like it's an injustice to have anything but the perfect passer rating as the Player of the Week. I mean, he just absolutely lit up the stat sheet last week, and although I don't think he's going to be able to do the same thing this week, I do think that the Giants' wonder streak of offensive explosion might come to a halt this week, just because it's off of a rematch of a division opponent who wants their get back. You're going into their house, and I've got the Eagles winning this one 31-17. I think it goes in the way of it's competitive for the first 2.5 quarters, and then I think the Eagles are really going to be able to take the top off and start running all over the New York Giants.
Yeah, I'll shout out my NFC Player of the Week. It was not Jalen Hurts, mostly because I wanted to give Devontae Smith his props. 9 for 183 and a touchdown, including a 79-yard touchdown reception. Now, you and I are largely in agreement that when a majority of a player's production comes from one play, that probably should take them out of contention. Here's what makes this play different. Smitty called it. And I'm going to use this as a segue into the problems with the Eagles, because there are still problems, despite how well Jalen Hurts played. Arguably the best game of his career. Undoubtedly the best game of Devontae Smith's career. A great A.J. Brown day. There are still problems here. The Eagles' opening drive touchdown came on 4th down. The route concepts were awful. Jalen Hurts had 5 seconds to throw in the pocket. And the first 2.5 of them, nobody was open. And then he pointed at A.J. Brown and pointed downfield. Brown went, Hurts threw him the ball. That's a touchdown. Kevin Patullo, get your fucking shit together.
Been saying it week after week at this point.
And then the Eagles' offense died until Devontae Smith called his shot. And the Eagles were up, I want to say 14-6 or 9 at the half. But the offense didn't score that second touchdown. Jalen Hunt did, courtesy of Jalen Carter absolutely wrecking Carson Wentz. It was a really good defensive performance against Minnesota. It was... I mean, I don't know what the answers are for the Eagles' offense. I'm charting the Eagles' offense. And there are people in the room who can vouch for this because they were there while I was doing it. Every time I watch a play, I go, what the fuck are these route concepts? There's always a curl. A.J. Brown is always running a go. Someone's always running a go. And then it's a series of digs and corners that just don't go anywhere. And the offensive line has been an issue for a majority of this year. A lot of them have been playing hurt. But, man, the play calling has to improve. And I think this was a really deceptive game because of all the stats that the Eagles offense put up against one of the best passing defenses in the NFL in Minnesota. This was a really deceptive game that I think might trick a lot of people into thinking the Eagles offense will be more dominant. This is a credit to the players, not the coaching.
Yeah, I do completely agree with that, and I think that Kevin Patullo is most certainly still a problem in Philly. Even with that, against the Giants, there is enough leadership in the locker room. There is enough leadership in these players. They are, as we saw and have seen now on numerous occasions this season, they are capable of calling their own shots, and they are capable of going down and putting points on their own schedule. And I think, honestly, I think that could happen. Could happen in the same way this game. I think this game could be competitive until the Eagles players start calling their own shots offensively, and then they just start romping all over the Giants in the fourth quarter. But onto a team that has kind of been sliding a little bit in their past couple games against a team who has been showing some promise, but unfortunately has their starting quarterback out this weekend. We've got the Buffalo Bills going to Carolina and playing the Panthers.
Yeah, I think I would have had this as a Bills win even if Bryce Young were playing, but it would have been a much more interesting game. No disrespect to Andy Dalton. The Red Rifle has absolutely made the most of his opportunities with Carolina as the starter. It's Buffalo. Their defense is not great. And I think there's an opportunity for the Panthers to do something here. But the Bills took their bye week, and they're going to come out, and they're going to get right after a couple game slide. And I've got Buffalo walking into Carolina and taking this one 24-14 with no Bryce Young for the Panthers.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the Bills coming out of the bye week, it was a well-timed bye week for the Bills. They started sliding a little bit, dropped a couple games that, frankly, they were favorites for. And then you're going into Bryce Youngless, Carolina. I've got them winning 24-10, and I think it's as simple as that. I think Josh Allen is gonna be able to go back, look at the film, and then have a good bounce back game against Carolina.
On to Buccaneers Saints. I don't think we really need to pretend that the Saints are anything more than they are. This has been the theme with the Saints. They are a very well-coached team. Credit to Kellen Moore, and I don't know who their defensive coordinator is, but credit to him as well. He's been coaching his ass off. Very well-coached team, not enough talent to survive. The Buccaneers are coming off a brutal loss where they also lost Mike Evans for the season, which tragically shatters his 1,000-yard streak.
You're not going to be able to guess who the defensive coordinator for the Saints is right now. Brandon Staley.
He's a great defensive coordinator.
He is a great
bum of a head coach.
he is a great defensive coordinator. I frankly didn't know where he washed up after the after the Chargers. But yeah, I agree. I think that the coaching staff. I'm just gonna pause just because I don't know how in frame he was. I think that the coaching staff for the Saints have been doing a great job with what they've had, but I don't think it's going to be enough to beat a Bucs team that is probably really pissed off.
I would imagine so.
After getting embarrassed, especially the offense getting absolutely embarrassed in prime time by the Detroit Lions, with utmost respect to how good of the team the Lions are. I didn't think they were going to be as good as they are, but they've proved me wrong. They are still an elite team in the league. But this Bucs team, they've got to want to make it right.
Well, and we have very similar margins here. I've got the Bucs winning 31-28 in New Orleans.
38-21.
What did I say?
You said 31-28.
Yeah, sorry. 38-21. That's 17-point margin for Tampa Bay. I think Emeka Egbuka reasserts his Rookie of the Year campaign. I think Baker reasserts his MVP campaign. And I think Tampa walks out with a fairly easy tune-up game against New Orleans.
Yeah, I agree. I've got this game at 35-20, and I think the Buccaneers come out here with a reassuring win. And on to what we both have pinned as our blowouts of the week. And
now, I just want to give a real quick shout out. We both predicted the blowout of the week correctly last week, and I think we finally cracked the formula.
Did we?
Pick against the Titans. Because we both picked the Patriots to blow out the Titans last week, and they did. And now we're picking, for both of our blowout of the week, the Colts to blow out the Titans.
Yeah, for me, this could not be an easier pick. I mean, the Colts are at home, which shout out to Jonathan Taylor, who was my AFC Offensive Player of the Week. Last week, he had 19 touches, which is kind of low for Jonathan Taylor, but he still had 132 yards and 3 touchdowns, which, shout out to him, is the third time this season he's had 3 touchdowns in a game, which, funny enough, is more times than the Jets quarterbacks have had 3 touchdowns in a game this year, which is absolutely
in fact, it's
hilarious.
It's more touchdowns than the Jets quarterbacks combined have thrown for this year. And it's only, I mean, adding in his 2 other touchdowns to make 11 total. The Jets have scored 12 total touchdowns on this season. Jonathan Taylor on his own has scored 11. So he is having an absolute hell of a season. It's really a 2-man race between him and Christian McCaffrey. Maybe you could throw in Jamar Chase or Emeka Egbuka even for Offensive Player of the Year. But to me, it's really Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey.
Jackson Smith and
JSN's having a great year as well.
having an absolutely phenomenal season. But, yeah, this is a really easy pick. Colts are at home, and we've been following them closely this season. They are looking like a really, really big contender. They've got a solid defense. They've got an absolutely explosive offense this year, which is seems like Jonathan Taylor is the engine. And Daniel Jones is playing efficient football, and I think that it's going to continue this week. I've got the Colts winning 40-14.
Yeah, I've got the Colts winning 44-13. Just a really rough time to be a Titans fan. I promise, guys, better days are ahead, but for right now,
don't break Cam Ward.
Please, for the love of God, don't break Cam Ward.
Because I was curious, and I was looking at what quarterbacks were doing the best, what quarterbacks were doing the worst. Cam Ward currently has the lowest QBR in the NFL this season, and it's a really bad situation for a first-round quarterback to come into, and I just don't break him before he hates the life in the NFL.
Well, and, among the bottom of the list, there are guys who really do belong down there. Justin Fields, Geno Smith, Jake Browning, all down at the bottom. Tua, I think, was down there as well. those are some of the worst quarterbacks in the league. I think watching Cam Ward, it's really just been that he doesn't have any help. And, like, to a much greater degree than any of those other guys don't have any help.
Yeah.
Pretty easy Colts victory. If they lose, it'll be really, really funny. But the Colts currently the 1 seed in the AFC, currently the best team in the NFL by record.
If the Colts lose, then why at this point predict anything? Because anything can fucking happen.
Yeah, no, I mean, it would be the ultimate any given Sunday.
Yeah.
And now for our primetime game, our penultimate game that we're covering, Commanders at Chiefs Monday Night Football. Now, the Commanders are coming off a rough one to Dallas. And, you know, the people who clicked on this video, which finally has a thumbnail, have probably been waiting for this one for 45 minutes to an hour at this point. Because the thumbnail says, "Oh fuck, they're back," and I really can't think of a better way to put it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'll start with saying that you know this about me and my opinion about the Chiefs, and more in particular Patrick Mahomes. This season is the first season that I think Patrick Mahomes has truly made me shut my fucking mouth, because he's had nobody. And he is top 5 to top 10 in every single statistical category for a quarterback, every single volume, every single efficiency statistic for a quarterback. Patrick Mahomes is playing really, really great football. And that's scary considering that they don't even have their full offense back yet.
And they do now, which really begs the question, what is the limit for this Chiefs team? Because now, worth mentioning, Rashee Rice's first game back was against the Raiders. He played great. He had 2 touchdown receptions. But, oh my, things are going to get real bad for the AFC. I really hope the Colts can hang on to the 1 seed, because I'd love to see the Chiefs have to play 4 playoff games. But it is very conceivable to me that the Colts drop a couple and the Chiefs don't lose for the rest of this season. I don't know what their schedule looks like, but I really can't think of another way to put it. Oh, fuck. They're back. This is the best they've looked since 2022.
Yeah, it really is. And looking at the rest of their schedule, I mean, they don't really have any huge challenging games. They do have a matchup against the Colts in Week 12 in Arrowhead, and they do have a matchup against the Bills in Buffalo in 2 weeks.
So those are the real test games for this Chiefs offense. And other than let's say they drop both of them, they're 12-5 at the end of the year. That's a 3 seed in the AFC.
And for those who don't know, I year after year pray on the Chiefs' downfall, and year after year I don't get my wish. And it looks like this is going to be another year. I mean, the team is playing really well, and they have been over the last couple of weeks getting a dominating win over the Raiders, a dominating win over the Lions. Yeah, they got edged out by the Jaguars in an absolute thriller on Monday night, but then they get a dominating win against the Ravens, and they've put up 28 or more points in every game in the last 4 games. This offense is back, and I think they're going to take the win at home in prime time, 27-21.
Yeah, the Commanders have really been struggling this year. And I think we have the same amount of faith in the Commanders' offense. I have less faith in the Commanders' defense than you do. And simultaneously, more faith in the Chiefs' offense. I've got this one as a 31-21 victory for Kansas City at home, if not worse. And I think it really could get worse. That being said, our final game next Thursday, Ravens at Dolphins.
And for those of you who don't know, we try to cover the following Thursday night games just to give our wonderful editors, Cooper,
And our
and
executive
our
producer,
executive
Holt
producer,
Hendershot.
Holt Hendershot, try to give them a little bit extra time because we are currently filming this on a Tuesday night. We are college students, but we do want to try to get you guys the content for each game before the game actually happens. So next Thursday, we've got Ravens Dolphins, and we've both got this one pinned similarly in terms of the Ravens.
Yeah, we talked about this for this week's Ravens game. Weird football team. Great offense, awful defense. And I think the Dolphins, in the wake of having fired Mike McDaniel, which I'm still holding on to as a prediction for this week, in a short week, will put up a better performance than they should. I don't think it matters. I think the Ravens, even in their weakened state, are far superior to the Dolphins in their now weakened state. I've got this one as 35-31, and I think a couple of garbage time touchdowns from Tua to Waddle save Miami from complete embarrassment in prime time.
Yeah, I've also got this one pinned as a Ravens victory. I've got them winning 33-24. It's just the fact I don't have any confidence in the Dolphins as a team right now. And I especially don't have any confidence in their defense when playing against a player like Lamar Jackson. And there are few quarterbacks in this league that are truly not affected by the system around them, or I should say not affected nearly as much, and they really are the system. And Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are honestly probably the only two guys that I think that is absolutely 100% true of. They are the system, and Lamar Jackson has shown. Look at the numbers. The Ravens put up 29 points per game with Lamar Jackson. Without Lamar Jackson, the exact same roster otherwise,
12.
they put up 12 points per game. Lamar Jackson is this offense. They are a successful offense with him on the field. And him playing, you've got a chance to put up 30 points, and I think they do in this one.
Yeah. Something I always forget to mention at the beginning of this, our records last week. We didn't have the pod last week, but we still did all the prep for it. I was 8-6 last week. You were 11-3, and that leapfrogs you over me for the first time this year. Your record on the year 35-24. My record 33-26. This week we disagree on We disagree on 2 games this week. So if I'm right about both of those,
that makes us even.
That makes us even. And I almost said this before we started recording, but if you really wanted to, you could just hedge your bets and start picking the same as me every time, even if you didn't believe in it, just so that you could maintain your 2-point advantage. But I always enjoy doing this with you. It's a wonderful way to spend a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. And thank you all for watching. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. They are linked in the bio down below. And we are going to be putting out more regular shorts content or reels or Instagrams. The Instagram is now also, or not the Instagram, the TikTok is now also linked in the bio. Please follow us. Our last TikTok got 0 views, and it's very sad.
Had 331 views on Instagram.
That is much better.
Had 15 likes. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Go follow the socials down below. We're going to try to get some reels posted every week at 1 to 2. Most definitely. We're going to have one out before this video. But thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next week.